Welcome to Learn and Love Music. I'm Duane Hulbert. This week we're going to look at a wonderful piece by Johann Sebastian Bach. Bach wrote many of his pieces in groups of 6. So if you know anything about partitas and toccatas and suites, all of these pieces by Bach, he liked to put them in groups of 6. What that means is that he has an entire piece and he has 6 of them in sort of like a big volume for each one of them. They're marvelous pieces of music, and I want to explore one of them today. And this is one of my favorite pieces. It's the Partita in G major. Today I'm going to give you 5 things to listen for in this Partita by Johann Sebastian Bach. Before we get started though, I want to encourage all of you to subscribe to our channel. We want to see you back again. So let's dig into this wonderful work by the Baroque master Bach. The first thing we'll look at is the theme of the piece. It's very short, it's only 4 measures, but it's repeated several times in this movement of the partita. It's called a preambulum, and a preambulum basically means a prelude piece. So he opens with this motive, and this is what it sounds like, the opening theme. It's very celebratory. It's a wonderful opening. Bach loved to use scales in these pieces. You'll notice lots and lots of scales, and it's just a lot of fun to play. So as you listen to this, you'll hear that theme reappear, but each time it's in a different key. So opening one is in G major. Then later on the first page, it's in D major, different key. So, and then later on, he'll be throwing in some other keys, E minor, and as we go through the entire piece, you'll find that that is sort of the anchor that holds down all the rest of the piece. C major appears later on. It gives a real sense of energy as you play this piece. I love playing this piece because of that excitement in the opening theme. Number 2, listen for the scales. He uses these throughout the piece. It shows off Bach's virtuosity. Right in the second line, he has these scales, but he chooses, instead of playing scales with one hand, he passes off the scales from one hand to the other. It gives it sort of a flashy character for listeners to watch as we cross hands. So here's an example of the scales that he uses right toward the beginning. And just for fun, the jumps have the left hand going over the right hand to a very low bass note. This is something you see all the joy that Bach has in not only playing this piece, but writing the piece as well. For those of you pianists who want to play Bach, you have to learn how to practice those scales because they're going to be used in all of Bach's works. And also in these scales, he never does them in the same key. So for example, in the beginning, we have a scale in G major, the key of the piece, and D major later on, but sometimes in E minor. And don't forget, some of the scales are in the left hand. On the second page, there's some left hand scales. And it takes some dexterity to play it in your left hand, but he's not like a lot of the composers who only, Mozart wrote most of the scales in his right hand, but Bach, both right hand and left hand get equal time with these scales. Number 3, listen for the arpeggios. And you'll note that sometimes he throws in some scale notes as well, but this rising line gives it lots of energy as we go upward. Here's an example of some of the arpeggios, even right there on the first page. We have this, D major, G major, D major, B minor, E minor, A major. Kind of mixes the scales and the arpeggios together, but they both are very important in sort of creating this rolling sounds of the passages in the early part of this movement of Bach. And these passages are heard throughout this whole movement. These arpeggios are really important. They're the foundation for the harmony in the piece, and I find that sometimes he uses the harmony with block chords. He might do this, but he fills it all in with the arpeggios and even some scales as well as we build up this. This is on the second page. Here's a sequence. A major, D major, I love the way that he goes through the major scales. Starts off with A major, D major, A major, is minor, D minor, and then a diminished chord to get to that wonderful A major climax at the end. Bach is not afraid to go into different keys all the time. He was the master of harmonies, and even at the time when he was writing very far ahead of the time of all the Romantic and classical composers, but he knew a lot about harmony, and that's what these scales and arpeggios do in this piece, like all of his pieces for that matter. Number 4, listen for the sequences. Here's an example of a sequence. Here Bach goes back and forth between putting the melody in the right hand, then the melody in the left hand, and then the left hand and right hand sort of alternate. So if I did just the left hand alone, it would sound like this. So what I'm doing there is I'm playing 16ths for one measure, 8 notes for another measure. Meanwhile, the right hand's doing 16ths, 8ths, 16ths. Put them together, and it's Bach at his best. Wonderful. The genius that he has in composition and being so facile with moving from harmony to harmony, and to make all of these passages just really jump out at you. Here it is together. Listen to the two hands working together. And finally, number 5, the bridge. What is a bridge? A bridge is a place in music where we're passing from one key to the other, but the two keys are not related to each other, so we have to put in what we call as a bridge, a harmony that fits between the two parts that are on either side of it. Let me give you an example. So in this example I have, Bach has left us in a position here of being he's in D minor, diminished, then we're in A major, but somehow he has to get out of A major to get down to A minor at the bottom of the page. So what he does is he puts a bridge section in with some really interesting harmonies. A major, A major, A sharp diminished, then we go into F sharp major, and then B minor, and then we're going into B major, so we can get to E minor. If I do this a little bit faster, you'll notice how quickly the harmonies sort of build up. It's done in a very creative way by Bach. Here it is. A major. And you'll notice too that he goes very quickly from one harmony to the other. He has so much skill in this area. It's what made him such a great composer. So I've given you 5 things to listen for in this piece by Bach. Make sure you check out our companion video where I'll be playing the entire piece. Thanks for watching Learn and Love Music, and we'll see you next time.